We were generating images in one place and generating page contents in another and trying to figure out how to fuse those two together, and we came out with this. This is amazing. So while we're generating the subsections of the pages according to our titles, we can decide if we want an image in there left or right. Okay? And so we've got our title and the keywords to keep it moving in the right direction, and then whether there's going to be an image aligned left or right. Then we have a new title, which we're for testing purposes use the same thing basically, with the same kind of, just copy the keywords down. No image. Okay. So here's our content written uniquely. So we have our title. It wrote unique content that's never been seen on the internet before and applied a unique image that it drew that's never been seen on the internet before, ever. Okay, how technology is changing the world, there's your image. Then what? A box with new technology is changing the world with no image. Then a box with new technology is changing the world, okay, with the keywords and the image. It says image left. We got to fix that, but that's easy. Tone is, whatever you want it to be, professional or creative or engaging. Okay, I'm sorry, professional, engaging, or convincing. We're going to add more tones before long. So check this out. It wrote a totally unique thing and added an image that totally blends with the idea. New technology is changing the world. There's your new technology is changing the world image. Okay? Isn't that amazing? We are on the verge of changing the world with our websites because we can mass produce pages like these for all these different websites. I want to talk about these topics. How many of you stop and remember that from the point of view of Google or Apple, most people are not actually inventing something new. They're reinventing something that already exists, but they're saying it in their own way. Okay? So when we create websites, right, we want to be able to produce a bunch of them that talk about the same things, whatever that thing is that we're after for the project. Now you might think, well, more websites is more expensive. But guess what? If you didn't get more websites, what would you get? You would go out and get backlinks. First of all, that's harder because there's no direct bridge to make that happen easily. Second of all, that costs money too, especially if those links are good, or you're hiring someone to do the work for you. Third of all, wherever those links go for backlinks are not pages selling you. They're pages selling those guys things. They're only backlinking you to make money on the side, but they're selling their things. What if you're creating your own backlinking websites that point in at you? Okay, so we're in a world where we can generate a bunch of websites with totally different themes, totally different layouts, colors, and everything, and we can talk about the same kinds of things. We don't even need to talk about the exact same things. You don't have to have the same 5 items in the top menu. We can generate articles like these and generate lots of variations for 20, 30, 40, 50 different things, and then mix and match them into the menus. So that the menus might only have 10 things out of the 40. But which 10 out of the 40? You've got lots of choices here. Any of them work. So when we set up projects like that, we can set up different websites talking about their points, their fulcrum and triangular around the topic the way they see fit. Or as we also talk about their seesaw, right? If this is your fulcrum, how far do they talk in that direction? How far do they talk in that direction? And obviously they're not really talking in any of these other directions over here. Right? Every website does something like that. And then we can have our master website with all 40 pages. And all those other websites can point in to the right pages from the right pages. Okay? And we can do that with relative ease. So we're just strategizing in the beginning, buying the domains, paying for the cPanels, paying for the server space, paying for the generations. We have to pay for all the generations of content. We have to pay for all the generations of images. But while we're doing that, the amount of time and effort spent on elbow grease stuff that you would have to do with any other website crew is like next to none. We've streamlined everything so through we can bat an eye. It means nothing to us to produce 100 cPanels onto a server and upload 100 websites and connect them to databases and arrange them and put usernames and passwords, unique ones on. All that stuff for us is easy. So what's expensive is the hosting. What's expensive are the domain. And by expensive, I just mean we have to pay for these things. Hosting, cPanels, domains. We have to pay for article generations, image generations, all that kind of thing. So Our job, though, aside from that, money spent on us for projects wonderfully gets to go into strategizing in the beginning and then babysitting in the middle and monitoring at the end. In other words, our systems do all the elbow grease work for us so we don't have to waste time on it. We just strategize what should we build content for. And then as we produce the contents and the images, are they blending well? Are they working together well? Let's flip the order and arrangement of these and drop that one we don't need it, add that one we do. And so we babysit. And then when we get it done, get our recipes done and we're mass producing, then what are we doing? We're monitoring the end results. And really, we're not monitoring on a website by website or web page by web page basis. Our websites are doing that for us. They are self-optimizing. All we do is set the goals inside of there, which we can mass do from a control panel in the background. We can automate the setting of the goals. And so now our website self-optimized based on user behavior, and we can study that and make sure that we've covered everything and that people are happy and they're content and they land and they buy. Okay? And so monitoring is easy by now. So most of the payment for projects these days is what? It's discussing strategy, babysitting in the middle, and then letting the websites monitor, but we monitor how the websites are performing as they monitor themselves. Our websites are going to change the world. This you cannot do cheaply. Monitoring itself normally for like a 50-page website costs about $300 a month if you hire a company to monitor your web pages and tell you what's broke or what's not working or where people are stopping. Paying a programmer to fix all those problems is like $250 a month to take the reports and give them to the programmer. And by the way, that's $300 when you're paying a company. They're going to give you feedback about every week. It really depends on how many visitors you have, but they'll give you feedback like every week, and then you hand it to the programmer and he's going to work on it. It'll add up to about $300 a month. It'll add up to about $250 a month. And then websites, if you wanted to go out and rent the tools yourselves to do these things, that's expensive. That's $99 a month for one of them. Another one comes to like $39 a month. Okay, that's per site. Okay, so if you add that for a year on top of the hosting, on top of the cPanels, on top of the domain, that's where expense comes from, right? And creating the templates and coming up with the goals inside the templates. The reason to let us do these jobs for you is because we do it in a very streamlined way. The flat cost for the width and the breadth of the projects that we do is better by a long shot than if you went out and tried to do it yourself willy-nilly with the pieces. Okay, but yeah, our websites are going to change the world. If you got one website and you played with it, you push as far as you can push it, guess what you're going to learn? Just how far you got, just how far you can get. And that's when you're like, I want more. Kind of like Smith in Matrix, right? More, when he gets more, you're going to take it over. I'd hate to say that you're going to be like Agent Smith. But yeah, you can take over your environment very easily by creating enough of these websites to compete with the other ones out there. If there are 100 websites out there, you probably need 20 to compete with all of them, because you have to be visible enough and Google has to see enough of a constellation effect through the backlinking to shove many of your websites up to cover as many of those front top 10 spots as possible, and then a number on the second page. So you want 10 spots on the front page per keyword as often as you can get it. Where you can't get 10, get 9. Where you can't get 9, get 8. Where you can't get 8, get 7. But that's saturation, right? And we can do that better, faster, and easier than anyone. And we can adjust that scale now like we never could before. We can force 10 all the time, basically. We have to be realistic about what it takes. But the fact of the matter is we know the math. We understand what to do to make it happen. Keep pounding out pages until you've overwhelmed all of the competitors, which we know how to do and we have the tools to do. And that's amazing because it's within our reach and it's not actually so complex. For your competitors, getting all this done costs a ton of money. For us, getting it done costs a fraction of that, tiny fraction compared. I've had people ask, what do you think it costs them to compete, to be on the front page once? They're hiring maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 SEO guys to pound away for $60,000 a year each. So they're paying $60 or $120 or $180,000 a year to stay on the front page. for as many keywords as possible to be as visible as they can be. In our case, it's nothing like that. We don't have to pay that kind of money. Probably $12.50 a month can compete with $180,000 a year. So $15,000 a year for us competes with their $180,000 a year to stay on the top. But the difference, we're not just aiming for one website. We can do a few at a time. We can do a lot at a time. We can do 15K down. We can do 100 at once. That's amazing. All right. I was just letting you know that from the smallest website project to the largest, everywhere in between, the ability to uniquely write perfect content whether you know anything about the topic, and the ability to create totally unique images that jive is the brainstorm was, we'll let you choose which titles are producing good images to go with those titles all the way down the page. So if you want an image left or right or not on, it's based on, do a few tests, see how this is coming out, and then go ahead and choose and roll with it. Isn't that amazing? I think it's really amazing. Okay.